Are you tired of the same old sports media? Are you tired of hot takes, arguments, and questions that are just completely off base?
Luckily, we have something for you. Touchdowns and tangents of the people, for the people, by people who care about the culture and all concise commentary. What's good, everybody? This is Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents. Not going to believe this, but we literally found a way to be in two places at once. I'm out here in LA. Shout out to Pirate Studios, pirate.com. Using their wonderful facilities to record the show, do some live tweeting. And Pete, tell these people where you at right now.
I'm in Vegas.
Birthday, you just turned 30. Specifically, where you at? Covering the draft.
I ain't got a mic.
I ain't got a mic, bro.
Walk into it.
I ain't got a mic. We only got one mic. Shout out to Nas.
All right. Tell everybody where you guys are at then. So, alrighty then. So, shout out to the Sapphire Gentlemen's Club in Las Vegas. They're holding a wonderful event. I can only speak to how jealous I wish I was there next year, or maybe, the next big event. Definitely. I'll be out there. But y'all holding it down in Vegas. And you got some guests with you, right?
Go ahead. Introduce yourself. Got the great, the legend, live from Las Vegas, the richest motherfucker in this club. He got more bitches in here than all the other podcasts combined. I'm sorry, women, not bitches. You got women. Shout out to JB the Ticket, man. Go ahead.
You already know the boss of the big board is in the building. The phone is already ringing. JB the Ticket live from the Sapphire. Sitting here with my man Pete, Touchdowns and Tangents. You guys already know what time it is. JB the Ticket is here to give you that grease. I told you, defense in the SEC. If you were taking prop bets on this NFL draft, just stick with those two things and you will put the cash in your pocket. Look at this. Another defensive tackle. Devontae Wyatt coming out of Georgia. Is this the Georgia NFL draft, my friend? The SEC draft? Or is this the NFL draft? Talk to me.
I'm pretty sure Bama's a little bit pissed off right now. Nick Saban watching the draft in his feelings.
Nick Saban should go by the way of Jay Wright from college basketball. Go ahead and retire. He went and start touching that politics. You know I'm not a big fan of that. Vegas Scoreboard Express, VSX Digital Networks, all money, all sports, no bull, okay? It's straight cash in your pocket, giving you grease. And I'm telling everybody right now, the NFL draft this year is all about position players. Offensive line, defensive line, wide receivers, no superstars, but these are Hall of Famers. These are 5, 10-year guys, veterans coming out. These are going to be the guys that we're going to be talking about in the next 10 to 20 years as potential Hall of Famers. And I really like Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia, simply because the Georgia Bulldogs mollywopped the Alabama Crimson Tide in the national championship, and it was all defense. Alabama, known for running up the score on people, couldn't get past 30. The Georgia defense, you can see now why. Almost, I think, 4 or 5 of the starters for Georgia's defense have been taken in the first round. The first night here, the very first draft here in Las Vegas, the Georgia Bulldogs are running the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, when it comes down to the Green Bay Packers, I don't think they could have had a better first round. I mean, you don't want to reach and take a receiver because there's like 15,000 of them. But to get Quay Walker, guy ran a 4.4, big, fast, and sensual middle linebacker. You put him next to Devontae Campbell, and pretty much they can cover any tight end you need to, and they can run sideline to sideline. Most teams run nickel anyway as their base. Then you get Devontae Wyatt, which fills a huge hole. They already had Kenny Clark at nose tackle. Ari, I mean, you really just need another defensive end. And people forget, this dude ran a faster 40 time than Jordan Davis. He's 6'3", 300 pounds, and we got a 4.77.
I'm telling
That's
you.
ridiculous.
I'm telling you. The running back position, let's talk about it. We haven't even heard of one running back sniffed at in the first round of the draft. There have been quite a few running backs. There's been talk around the NFL that the position of running back may change, maybe make it a fifth wide receiver. We've seen running backs over the last 4 or 5 years, especially DeAndre Swift coming out of Georgia, was a dynamic runner in college, more of a pass catcher out of the backfield. So now that we're getting more towards the final picks of the first round, do you think there will be a running back taken in the first round, or are we going to continue to see this defense and offense on the offensive lines, continue to dominate this draft? Because what I'm thinking right now, the NFL, with the lack of superstar success of Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas, not giving them what they were looking for, and many others, Trent Richardson, the like, so many running backs taken in the first round, taken with high picks, Mark Ingram, haven't reached that superstar status. So do you think tonight running backs are going to get put on notice, not getting picked in the first round? Go ahead.
I honestly thought that Buffalo was going to take Breece Hall. I mean, you got him and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, I can see falling because he's not really a pass catcher. But Breece Hall can do a little bit of everything. He has a nose for the end zone. And they both run sub-3 4.40s, which is already elite. So I think if there was a couple of places, if the Jets got to steal with Jermaine Johnson at 26th. Like, they're actually making smart moves, and I'm shocked. If you're going to factor in Jacksonville's not taking a running back, obviously Green Bay's not taking one. New England doesn't really need one. They're either going to go receiver, they're going to go corner. I mean, not like Lewis Sign, the free safety out of Georgia. They could do that. They could even go linebacker again. They could go offensive line. But when it comes down to it, I don't really see a running back for any of these picks. Minnesota traded out. They definitely don't need a running back. It's probably going to be a run on cornerbacks, or safeties.
Now, another thing that
safeties,
I
maybe
agree.
a linebacker or two.
I don't think we're going to see any running backs in the first round.
Kenneth Walker
right.
getting out of the second round tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I could see those guys slipping down to the third round just simply because of Deebo Samuel. Now, we're talking about Deebo Samuel coming out of the San Francisco 49ers demanding a trade because they hit him with the Willie Beeman, wanted to make him a running back because he had quick feet. Absolutely stupid. This guy, no big trades in the first round to move up and get him. Just on a side note, do you think Deebo Samuel is going to be on an island in San Francisco, or will a trade be made tonight to try to get him on a roster? Because the first round is almost over. The value in that first round pick coming into the late 20s, not there for, guys 1 through 10, 10 through 20, 20 through 30. Do you think there's any possible value that somebody could make a move with one of those picks to try and get Deebo Samuel? Well, hold on. We have another pick.
Who's left? Unless New England's going to do it, but New England doesn't trade for superstars. Unless you're Randy Moss. They took Cole Strange.
No one was
going to take Cole Strange.
Cole Strange has become a first-rounder. University of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Chattanooga. We have got a mid-major football player going in the first round. I told you, this is a draft about position and skill. Doesn't matter where you played. Also, in the NIL era, where these college athletes can make money, you're going to see a lot more top players sign with mid-major schools to become superstars because of things like playing time, things of exposure, smaller market, big fish in a small pond, and Cole Strange is exactly that. Third team all FCS. We're talking about an FCS guy. So if you're an FCS guy coming in, taking care of business to make it into the first round, more power to you. Congrats to Cole Strange. And again, rocking with the boss of the big board, JB the Ticket, doing a little guest spot here live at the Sapphire with my main man Pete and the homeboys over at Touchdowns and Tangents. You guys are going to be on the show this season for sure, because it's cool up in here. We going to keep it rocking. I like that intro you guys gave me. Definitely got to make sure that you go to VegasScoreboardExpress.com. I'm going to put a link to your show on my website to make sure more fans can hear more quality sports information. I like your intro. We're tired of hearing terrible sports, arguments, BS, Stephen A. yelling. He's not putting any money in your pocket. When you listen to JB the Ticket and you wake up Saturday morning and you hear rotation number, that means somebody's getting paid. Win, lose, or draw, I'm going to get you paid. Here goes Pete.
Hey, JB, we got a pick right now, but let me ask you this, because this show is about balancing the touchdowns, the news cycle, with the tangents, life, how football, sports has all made us into the people that we are. So let me ask you this, man. There aren't a lot of black people in sports betting. So talk about how you've gotten to where you've gotten and how other people can make some bread like you have and establish a podcast and a marketing agency and everything wonderful you got going.
I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, man, and I'm just telling you right now, the reason why there's not a lot of blacks and Hispanics in sports betting is because they don't realize that you can still bet sports. See, I'm Dominican American. Se habla español, leer en español, escribir en español, okay? Me gusta los fútbol americanos. I'm telling you right now, the reason that quote-unquote minority communities haven't been that big into sports betting, first of all, we play the game. So many of us are connected to the game, and that would cause relatives or ourselves as individuals to end up like Calvin Ridley, okay? So there's a certain fear there that there could be maybe some criminal action. Even if it's legal now, there's still a certain fear that repercussions can come back to them. However, if you're a regular trucker, you work a job, you might be wealthy, you like sports, I'm telling you right now, there is no reason for anyone who is not connected to the sports leagues who are restricted from sports betting to not sports bet. The only color that matters in sports betting is green. That's why the slogan on our show is all money, all sports, no bull. We don't cover any politics. I hate all this woke stuff in sports because it's not putting money in your pocket. We've had 30 picks tonight. I told all my listeners and all my followers, go big on defense. When you see a defensive prop, take it. I'm sure they're happy. My phone has been ringing off the hook. I got invited to come over to go to you guys' show because my show was having technical difficulties. But I said, look, we'll do this at the end when T.O. gets here. I might do it live with my phone or something. I got all kinds of cool tech. But to answer his question, I made my money when I began to realize that my talents as a sports fan were valuable, okay? If I watch these games all the time, I know the players, I know their colleges, I know what type of games they have, and I'm really interested. Why would I sit there and watch as a fan rather than feeling as a sports investor? And I'm not telling people to bet the rent. I actually say that on my show. Don't bet the rent, but if you're scared, take them into points, okay? But if you're gully and you wanted that grease, go money line. So I think a lot of it is just the fact that in many spaces, you know, the blacks, Hispanics, minorities, Asians, they just haven't been able to come to the forefront. And I think that now, with sports betting being legal, I think more of us in our space, with our ethnicities, within our culture, should bring sports gambling to the table as a part of our gambling repertoire. We all play spades for money. We all play craps. We all, roulette, poker, playing a CeeLo on the corner. We gamble. So don't get it twisted. We as a people, we as a urban community, we gamble. But sports betting is where the money is at. It's the only thing I know that can give you, quote unquote, legal drug money. You can start off with $100, bet correctly, make smart bets, don't swing for the fences. And in 2 years, you can work yourself up to 50, 100,000 in the bank. But the reality is, you can only do that if you have the knowledge of the sports. And I know so many of my fans and people in the community are huge sports fans, but when I tell them to make a bet, it's like they clam up and they think their sports knowledge isn't valuable. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not betting your rent, you're not betting your mortgage, you're not betting your, wedding ring, not doing stupid stuff at the table, sports betting is a great way, especially in the urban community, to add more excitement to the sports. And just imagine if, for example, your favorite team won the Super Bowl, why not get paid for it? Why not put some cash in your pocket? You're watching millionaires run up and down the field and catch the ball when all you've got to do is walk up to the window and say the rotation number. Come on, people, get with it.
All right, man. Another question for you. With the second round, day 3 coming up, what's some ways people can make money?
But right now, in the second round, some way people can make money, like I'm telling you, it's going to be position play. How many wide receivers are going to be taken? How many players from each conference? It's going to be those specific prop bets. And again, you can also go to my website. I'm sponsored by uwager.lv. They're a great online casino. They don't charge a lot of VIG. They've got free rolls in poker. And I'm telling you, sign up for that. It's absolutely free. You get 100% if you deposit cryptocurrency. I have a coupon code. Use coupon code VSX. I'll double your crypto. So if you put $100 in Bitcoin, I'll throw you another $100 in Bitcoin just to let you know JB the Ticket wants you to win. So going back to his first question, the second and third days, we're looking at prop bets, okay? Defensive backs. We're going to see a lot of defensive backs come off the board, mainly going to the NFC East and the AFC West. Okay, the AFC West right now, they've had a lot of turnover from the quarterback position, and now you've got issues again up in not San Francisco. You've got issues with the Rams in the NFC side with Aaron Donald unsure if he wants to come back. So there's going to be a lot of defensive guys taken. You're going to get a lot of hybrids, linebackers, safeties. If you want to make money, look at this position-specific prop bets, okay? This is telegraphed. The NFL draft is probably the easiest part of the season to win in the NFL because you're picking individuals. Now, of course, there are going to be some outliers, some anomalies like the young gentleman that was just taken from Chattanooga. But most importantly, going into the second and third days, that's when NFL teams are drafting strictly on need, nothing else. They're going to be using a lot of trades. They're going to be moving a lot of players around. You never would have thought you'd see Russell Wilson play in any other jersey than Seattle, but it probably still stings him that Beast Mode didn't get a chance to run in that touchdown. So again, second and third days, guys, focus on player prop bets. Focus on prop bets that develop a sense of value for your team. And most importantly, have fun doing it. Don't bet the house. If you got a gambling problem, stay away from the casino. We know this. But if you want to feel full and feel enjoyable about this sports, especially this NFL draft, make a few bets. I'm telling you, you guys got regular listeners, the tangents, touchdowns and tangents. You guys already know. You listen to them. You like their information. They brought me on, JB the Ticket, to just tell you guys, look, there's a reason they put the draft here in Vegas. The NFL's in bed with all the casinos. Calvin Ridley fell prey to it. But most importantly, the fans here in Las Vegas, that's why it's so raw, because she's watching the NFL draft now, because they've all bet. Win, lose, or draw, they felt like they had some skin in the game, and that's the way you do it in this era of legal sports betting. Go ahead.
All right, JB. Well, we got another guest coming on, so go ahead and plug your channels. Let people know what you got coming up and where they can follow you and all that good stuff.
All right, guys, I really appreciate you having me on the show. You can follow me on Instagram at JB the Ticket. You can also find me on Twitter if they've released that shadow ban, because I'm not political. And I was poking fun at that 6'5" power forward swimming for the women's team up at Penn. But most importantly, we beat the line. That's right. Me and my group, we beat the line. We've been beating the line. We're going to continue to beat the line. And most importantly, to really get a hold of me, go to my website, www.vegasscoreboardexpress.com. JB the Ticket, boss of the big board, giving you guys a shout out. Touchdowns and tangents. It's going to get greasy this NFL season. First round's almost over. Day 2 and day 3. Come back and let's get that money.
Love to hear it. That was wonderful. Salute, man. Can't wait to chop it up with them guys later in the season. It's gonna be dope. Describe the environment. The first round's almost over.
Yeah, we went to CSUN. We're from CSUN. His wife's family from Sylmar, so he's familiar with the valley.
Small world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Kenny, go ahead. Take it away.
Man, I saw Cole Strange at the Senior Bowl. I didn't think he was going to go this high. Shocked that the Patriots took him, knowing that Travis Jones was still on the board. Daxton Hill was on the board. They also had Lewis signed. After 28, this is actually, the Chiefs got a steal. They got Trey McDuffie, who, by the way, is an LA native, went to St. John Bosco. Trey McDuffie like 22 or 20 or 23. No, hold on. Let me get the number right. Trent McDuffie at.
Kalen's on the line, sir.
Okay, cool. Let's do it then.
On you, make the intro.
I got you. All right, so the person we're about to bring on right now, how does he work at the Ringer? Seen him out at local sporting events, like in particular USC's Pro Day. Watching Drake London's workout, and then before that, watching USC's whole Pro Day. And it's always just good to see other black dudes in media doing their thing, man. Shout out to we got him, Kalen Jones. He's on the line. Kalen, how's everything going with you, man? How's this process been?
It's been good, man. Shoot, thanks for having me, first of all. But yeah, no, it's been a crazy opening draft night for sure. I wasn't expecting all this movement, but it's been pretty entertaining for sure.
And it's crazy because I read your story on Kayvon Thibodeaux, and I was tweeting about it like around the combine when he decided he wasn't going to do any more drills and he was just going to finish everything at his pro day because he felt like he ran a disappointing 40 time. And a 4.58 is pretty fast. But I remember watching him when he transferred from Dorsey to Oaks Christian, and he was having to go 70 miles, pretty much up and back every day to go to high school. And then his last high school game ever, he gets ejected for getting into a fight. But he's still the number one player in the country, the number one defensive end in his position, just number one everything. And like Oaks Christian pretty much got a gift. He goes off to Oregon. And honestly, I'd say surpasses the expectations that everybody had for DeAnthony Thomas. Like DeAnthony Thomas, they saw, well, he's the next Reggie Bush. He's the savior to a program. And I mean, Oregon had other things going on besides DeAnthony Thomas. But this dude, I talked to, guys who played against him in the Pac-12, and they're like, no, he's as advertised. He's that dude, especially on 3rd and 8. But, like any other time, a player might take a playoff, especially if you're a defensive end and the play is not to your side. You don't waste all your energy and time trying to run halfway across the field to make a play you're just not going to make. So, I mean, what was your process when you were writing that story on Kayvon Thibodeaux, and what conclusions do you feel like you came to tonight after seeing where he got drafted?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I like how you laid out everything, especially when you consider his background and what he went through to get to this point. As far as like writing the piece itself, I mean, the whole premise was trying to identify why is it, that we take these prospects, at a certain period of the year, and like, why is it that the character issue always comes up or like some type of negative narrative pops up? And I tried to justify it, I tried to figure out whether it's justified and whether or not it makes sense. Like people who are decision makers, like, do they actually take stuff like that seriously? And so I went and found like someone who's in behavioral, who like studies behavioral, I'm forgetting what the word is, but like he does like behavioral studies for athletes and like figures out whether or not, they fit into certain cultures and team environments and whether or not that would translate at a professional level, specifically within the sports realm. And, what I found out is, Kayvon Thibodeaux, for all of the critiques that he might get for his off-field interests and the idea that football is a means to an end rather than it being the end-all be-all, there's going to be more players like him in the future, especially, you want to get into a deeper discussion. We got NIL now for these kids who are in college, but I think is awesome. And I think they've got plenty more opportunities to make money, while they're at that level, while a lot of them are as marketable as they'll ever be. Like there will be more kids with different senses of awareness and a heightened sense of self-consciousness. Like you were pointing out, if I'm Kayvon Thibodeau, if I am a sophomore and I'm hearing that I'm probably going to be a top 5 pick going into my junior year, just on a basic human level, if I understand that all I need to do is get through one more year healthy and then I'm earning, multi-million dollars, I can secure that, that type of money. Why would I give any effort going into next year? The fact that he played following a year where we saw multiple guys, including both the offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year, sit out of playing football completely, for him to come back and to even compete at the level that he did, whether he's taking plays off or not, I don't know if it's something to really judge him on. And, the really big point that I made sure to hit on was that we didn't hear that, critique of Kayvon Thibodeau until last season, which really didn't matter in the, the grand scheme of whether or not he was going to get drafted or not, or where he would be. It was a critique that only popped up after a year where we understood as human beings he did not really need to give full effort in order to secure himself being a top 10 pick. So it was odd. And I think that, I didn't really hit on it, the racial element, the fact that he is 6'4" and, 270, 250 pounds, whatever he is, like that he speaks the way that he does, it's definitely intimidating to people. And I do think that there was some element that led to, him being perceived a certain ways in terms of the media narrative. Luckily, I don't think it affected his draft status too much for him to go to number 5. And, I think he'll end up having a pretty solid career.
Yeah, because it's funny. Like, everybody was hyping up Aiden Hutchinson and saying, oh, well, he gives effort every play. But if you watch Georgia, he got folded in half like a broken wind, like a frozen beach chair in and I would say a hurricane. Like, if you just a play where their left tackle, who I don't even think he's draft eligible, he folded Aiden Hutchinson. But nobody talks about that. They just keep saying, "Oh, well, Kayvon Thibodeau didn't give his best effort," and I feel like not that it's. I mean, the great white hype exists in sports. Like that's just role. I guess kind of like something like heels in wrestling. Like there just always has to be one. They always try to have that, and I think in this particular case, especially when I was hearing Rich Eisen just kind of kick Kayvon Thibodeau's back in during the combine, I'm like, okay, the dude he's been there all day. Like, he didn't get much sleep. Like, when I think about interviews at the combine, I mean, Jeff Ireland asked Des Bryant, how was it like knowing his mom was a crack whore? Like, let's not act like it's the most professional environment on the planet to sit up here and put these young athletes in situations where most of the time the people asking them have no cultural background or relation to them whatsoever. I've never seen an athlete who is fiscally responsible and setting himself up to be a billionaire, whether his body breaks down or not. I've never seen somebody get judged that harshly, and he still goes top 5. But in high school, guess what? Everybody said he was a top 5 pick. So, like, it feels like I don't know if there was a concerted effort to kind of taint his draft status compared to other guys. And I get why Trayvon Walker would be the number 1 overall pick. I mean, if you're 6'5", 270, running a 4.51, like, I would have taken him number 1 overall too. But it felt weird seeing what they, were doing with Thibodeau, knowing that Oregon has a bunch of athletes who they were doing progressive stuff with, but it wasn't a negative, when he started.
Yeah, but, that's the thing, man. Like, it all, without even pointing out, like, how it shaped up with Hutchinson. Like, it just didn't make any sense for what we were critiquing Thibodeau for. Like, that's my biggest thing. Because you can have your reservations about Aiden Hutchinson's, whether it's his arms or that, he might not have the highest ceiling in the draft, but he obviously has a very high floor. The athletic profile is there, and the production is there. So I understand why Aiden Hutchinson was in consideration for the top pick. It just didn't make sense why we were making Kayvon Thibodeau the villain. And even when you consider how Jermaine Johnson, who just kind of slipped here, it didn't even make sense like why he ended up overtaking Thibodeau either. But it is what it is.
I mean, speaking of the Pac-12, another person that we saw, and I wasn't shocked that he went to 8 because, I mean, when he's healthy, we've seen what he can do. We were both at USC's Pro Day, the individual workout. Drake Jackson, defensive end, he ended up not running a 40, but he said he could run somewhere between a 4.4, 4.5. And honestly, he looks like a Madden created player, so I believe him. The fact that he was 255 and then he showed up on his Pro Day at 270 and he didn't look like he was 270. So that's interesting in itself. But Drake London, the Pro Day he put on and then going 8th overall to the Falcons, did you see that coming, or what was your kind of whole take on that?
I was a little bit surprised. And, I've tried not to cop out too much when people ask me, like, who was your top receiver in this class? And I would tell people, it depends on what day you catch me. It's kind of like picking your favorite flavor of ice cream. There's a lot of good dudes at receiver in this draft. And Drake London, depending on the day, might have been my top guy. I think, ultimately ended up being Jameson Williams, who ended up being, I think, the 4th or 5th guy this evening to get drafted. But I mean, it's easy to understand why Drake London went 8th. Ankle injury notwithstanding, when we were watching him at his Pro Day, man, you don't see a 6'5" dude throttle down, get in and out of his breaks the way that he does. Like, that is extremely rare. And on top of that, he has the catch radius. So I think he delivered that quote to us when we were standing there. He mentioned it doesn't matter whether there's 2 or 3 defenders. He finds a way to either catch the ball or get open. And so I think that's going to translate. And when you look at the type of receiving corps that the Falcons are trying to put together, I mean, for that to be foundationally set up with Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I know Marcus Mariota isn't exactly, known to be a deep ball, thrower as a quarterback. His game is more intermediate. But that being said, like, if the Falcons were to, tank and go get a passer next season, that's a really tantalizing opportunity to get to throw the ball to both Pitts and Kyle London, and then potentially you have Calvin Ridley if he ever comes back off suspension. So, the Falcons have a legitimate receiving group down there, and I think that adding London definitely gives them versatility because of his ability to play both outside and within the slot. And I'm curious to see what Arthur Smith does with him now that he has really exciting offensive playmakers, not to mention, Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, I was looking at that 8th pick and I was like, okay, you could put Garrett Wilson there, but he needs a guy to feed him. Like, what's the point of beating your guy running open downfield? QB can't really necessarily get it to you in every situation. But Drake London, I mean, you can go back to his high school tape. I remember he went to Moore Park. I went to Lawndale High School. When I watched Jordan Wilmore, who's now at Fresno State, he is I think top 5 in California in rushing because he had 3 2,000-yard rushing seasons at Lawndale to help them win the state championship. And I think it was his sophomore. I think it might have been his junior year. They played Moore Park in the playoffs and lost. And all I kept hearing was Drake London's name. And I was like, I know the guy is good, but is he that good? And then I see him in a dunk contest. And the fact that he has slot receiver feet on a dude who's 6'3", almost 220. And standing there next to him, it's like, okay, clearly he's tall, he can get up. But he was only 80%. And I don't think people really understand how a lot of guys, it's just not smart for them to run 40s. If you're not fully healed, and he literally was only running 6 miles an hour, the week before the combine, teams can't really hold that against you. And he doesn't have an injury history. So to see his ascent, and I was telling Pete, co-host, I was like, he's different from other USC receivers. He trains with Michael Pittman Jr. and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he's working in the slot, but he's also a big body dude. He's not as tall as Michael Pittman, but he's fast. I'd say he's either as fast or a little bit faster. but definitely more agile. People call him like, baby Mike Evans. But when it comes down to just the Pac-12 and even the offenses that these receivers are coming out of, now I think you're going to see more drafts like this where you got like 4 or 5 receivers. Like, yeah, they may not do everything you want them to, but they're elite at what they're good at.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, I think it was my guy Ben Solak today who published a video about it. We're never going to see a bad receiving class ever again, just because the best athletes are playing the position now. And then when you look at the game, there's several reasons for this. I mean, you talk about the youth level, 7-on-7 camps. They're prevalent now. That's how you get scouted, like being able to go to those events. And then on top of that, when you look at the way football is played now, it's about passing the football. The rules obviously favor passing the football now, and it makes a lot of sense. If you're trying to make money and you're looking at it right now, I don't know how sustainable this whole receiver bubble is. We saw AJ Brown get his $100 million contract during the draft today, but these guys are going to get paid. Even if it's not this much, they will get paid, and they're going to be important to how football is played. So, we're going to see more and more talented guys continue to filter in through the league at that position. And until we see some type of, generational shift, whether, again, that's the rules being changed in football or kids just deciding they don't want to play that position anymore, these receiver classes are always going to be stacked.
Even like you look at the cornerback class, I mean, it wasn't the strongest, but there's not many cornerback classes where you have a guy go 3 and 4 back to back.
Oh yeah, no, that was insane. That was wild. And what's crazy is like we had heard the rumors and the murmurs about it all week leading up to the night, and it still was a little bit perplexing because the whole Stingley to Houston, rumors had started, I think, about a week or two ago, or maybe earlier this week. It feels like a month. But I mean, on top of that, we knew Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati was, in the discussion for being top cornerback in this draft and arguably a top 5 pick. And, that did end up coming to fruition. And a lot of it did have to do with how the draft board shook out and the teams that were picking in the top 10, as well as the fact that, again, we didn't have a premier quarterback in this year's class. So, it made a lot of sense. And also those dudes are just supremely talented. I know that Stingley had, 2 down years after his fantastic freshman year. And Sauce Gardner playing at Cincinnati, he might have never allowed a touchdown in his career, but he was mostly doing it against, I think it was AAC opponents. So, I mean, there's definitely reasons to critique either one of them, but, NFL scouts and prognosticators, they're the reason why these dudes end up going super high, and you have to trust their opinion on this. And I think both those guys will end up, proving both those organizations right for selecting them so high.
Look at the end of the first round. You finish it off with Daxton Hill and Lewis Cine. Hill didn't run a 40. I kind of have my issues there because I don't think he probably would have tested as well. But that doesn't matter because his tape says enough. But Lewis Cine breaks off a 4.37, 4.38 40, and he's honestly perfectly what the Vikings needed. I don't think the Vikings were willing to take Kyle Hamilton at 12, and the fact that they ended up trading down with the Lions, like that's the op. Like you're not supposed to trade teams in your division like that, and they get back down to 32 and get 34. And now they could probably take Travis Jones I think he'll still be available at 34. But when you look at how this first round played out, what do you think it says for the quarterbacks in this class? Should they be worried, or you think these guys are going to go possibly to like perfect situations?
I mean, you look at the way that this was going to shake out anyway, when you look at like Malik Willis, where he could end up, I think the projection will be a lot easier. And I say that because now you're not expecting, whoever else is out there between Willis, Sam Howell, Desmond Ritter, etc. Now you're not expecting any of those guys to step in and immediately, compete for the starting job. I mean, all of those guys, including Pickett, I would put in the bucket of being project quarterbacks. And, the fact that they, outside of Pickett, and even with Pickett, I mean, you'll have to compete with Mitchell Trubisky for Pittsburgh's starting job. Like the rest of those guys, there will be no pressure to immediately, step in and contribute. And I think that's a really big deal mentally. I mean, obviously they'll be motivated, and I think that's super helpful, but there is no pressure to step in and immediately come in and save a franchise on top of, maybe, some of us in media saying they were overdrafted. I think now you look at those guys, and if they go in the second round, there's still an argument some of those guys are being overdrafted. But at the same time, it's a lot easier to look at somebody's career and say, okay, they didn't pan out, and there's less contention over them not fulfilling whatever potential we think they have, as opposed to being a top 10 pick and being expected to save a franchise and yada, yada, yada. So I think it'll work out better for them. And like you said, this is probably, more in their favor to, for a few of these guys that have slipped out of the first round.
Indeed. And to get off that, let's get back to you as a writer and just a journalist, and kind of tell everybody your journey and how you've come to this point.
So I've been super lucky. I went to school at Arizona State. I went there from 2014, 2018. Was lucky to get into an internship with MLB.com. From there, like the girl who was covering the Angels at the time, Maria Guardado, she ended up linking me up with somebody who works over at SI, and Sports Illustrated ended up hiring me on to their staff as junior writer. So I was doing like the breaking news stuff, like the clickbait, and I was trying to push doing features and stuff like that too. So I was keeping in touch with all the editors whenever I pitched stories and stuff like that. But while I was at ASU, Stuart Mandel came down and visited, and he spoke to a small group of us. And at the time, The Athletic wasn't The Athletic. Like, it isn't what it is right now. And so when he came and spoke to our little group, nobody was really asking him questions. And I was really the only one, trying to learn more about what The Athletic was and what the future journalism would be and all that. So he and I ended up keeping in touch. And after a year at Sports Illustrated, doing the clickbait, he ended up circling back and reaching out, and he was like, hey, we have a few college football openings. During the interview process, all those openings filled up, but they had University of Texas open. So I covered the University of Texas for a year. Got laid off actually during COVID. I got through one season and got laid off, but luckily one of the editors from Sports Illustrated was over at The Ringer. And he reached out to me immediately and was like, hey, man, we might be interested in you. Please consider us. And, I ended up a few weeks later at The Ringer and covering the NFL as a staff writer. So I've been doing that for 2.5 years, two seasons. I'm coming up on 2 years. And I've been doing the writing, doing some podcasting here and there. And, being fortunate enough to jump on podcasts like this with you, Ken. So, I appreciate you and Pete for having me on, man. Seriously, it's been a fun ride.
Likewise, thank you. And when you talk, because Pete and I, we went to Cal State Northridge, so it's with us starting a podcast, we already knew each other. And obviously, ASU is a big journalism school. Do you feel because I know for us, we have we've had journalism events and competitions.
You lost him. I told you. I literally told you, bro. You lost him. He's gone. I told you. I gave you 3 warnings. 3 warnings. But yeah, man, shout out to Kalen Jones, at Kalen Jones on Twitter. Send him a message and just let him know our bad. Free Zoom canceled out. Oh, really?
I'm still here.
Oh, it looked like you dropped off the Zoom. My bad.
Oh, it's all good. No, you straight.
Well, this is awkward now. Well, this is awkward now. Go ahead, continue.
No, you're good. You're good. It happens. Shoot, it's technology. We're in 2022. It happens, man.
Your co-host is abusive.
The Hennessy and Sprite ain't helping.
But no, I just got it. Wi-Fi here is kind of weird. But I mean, yeah, when you talk about like coming from ASU, obviously, you know, they have their reputation. How was that for you, like going through that program and kind of looking around, seeing the names on the wall? Like what was that process like for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, especially like when, you know, you're going through the college process and trying to figure out like where to go to school, you know, I had, you know, when you're first going through that application process, you know, you're going to shoot for the moon and the stars. So I was looking at Northwestern and USC, and then one, I realized one, my grades weren't good enough, and then two, I don't know if it was my grades or my SAT score, either way, testing numbers weren't there, and then two, which is the bigger one, there was no way in hell I was going to be able to afford any of it. So,
I think you fell into the right one because I think ASU might have better extracurricular activities.
That too, you know what I mean? Like it was a great experience all the way around. Like you said, like extracurricular, both you know the teaching as well. Like it was very immersive. Like if I had gone to a USC or Northwestern, I would have got swept up. I would have just been, you know, I don't think I would have been in the position that I'm in. I wouldn't have had the opportunities to get involved. You know, there's so many clubs at ASU. There's so many kids who are motivated. And there was always like that weird college culture trying to compete with one another, which I never really messed with that. But I mean, you know, it resulted in people pushing each other in the best way, you know, competitively, even though I don't know if I consider myself like that. But it really did, you know, help me to be the best version of myself and motivate me. And so, you know, like you mentioned, Kenneth, like looking at the names on the wall, I don't know. I mean, like it definitely helps, I guess, to see some of those names. You know, I think reputation is obviously important. That's why, you know, I was looking at USC, why I even considered Northwestern. But at the same time, you know, it doesn't really matter what school you're coming from. It really matters, like, I mean, it matters in the sense that, you know, like connections, maybe networking and all that, which is obviously supremely important and a key reason why I am where I am. But at the same time, I know people from all kinds of schools who have, you know, made it and swam upstream, so to speak, within our field. It really does come down to, you know, one, being able to put in the effort, and then two, you know, putting yourself in position to be lucky. You know, like if you're, that's what I'm saying, like seeing you at USC, like you don't know who you're going to bump into or who, you know, you're going to impress by asking questions or writing articles or doing stories, whatnot. So, you know, as long as you're putting in the work, I think, you know, it puts you in position to be seen. And I think exposure is obviously a really key thing because, you know, our industry really is about who you know. And I hate saying that, but, you know, like as long as you're putting in the work, you know, it makes it a lot easier to be put in position to be lucky. Like, and I really think that that's the key to, you know, succeeding in our field. Cause, you know, I look around and it's a lot of people who have this like similar stories to me where you have one, you know, fortunate meeting with somebody and all of a sudden, you know, you're in another place. Like it really is that it comes down to like strokes of luck like that. And it starts with effort and hard work.
Was definitely appreciate that. So yeah, pretty much leave us with your predictions for, you know, for day 2, the rest of the draft. And, you know, shout out your socials.
Yeah, no, I'm on social media. I'm at Kaelen Jones on Twitter at KaelenJones. As far as like day 2, I'm trying to think of who's at the top of day 2 because I'm curious to see like where Malik Willis ends up. And the Kobe Dean, like the linebacker out of Georgia, I'm shocked that he didn't get selected. Breece Hall, I'm curious to see if he ends up being one of those top guys. And then Arnold Ebiketie, I think, you know, the edge rusher out of Penn State, that's one of the guys who I'm really surprised didn't end up going either. So I think those guys are probably, going to be some of the first names that you hear off the board tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Houston continues to be aggressive, as well as Philadelphia. I know that they've still got a lot of picks that they're holding on to. And, I don't know if we'll see any big trades that involve players, but I think that we should see, some of the names that got left off the board in day one, go off the board pretty quickly in day two.
Steph, thank you for chatting with us, man. I appreciate you, and it'll be fun seeing you out there. Out there on the good journalism trail.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Sorry for almost running you when I don't know how we got extra 20 minutes on Zoom, but I'm not mad. Thank you.
Hey, it happens, man. It happens. I'm just happy y'all had me. Appreciate it.
All right, man. So that was Cameron Jones, man. Shout out to him. Kenny, want to wrap us up? Day 1, 2022 NFL Draft rants.
This, I don't know when this thing's going to cut me off here. I mean, this was a defensive heavy draft, and I'm not surprised. Everybody did their kind of, did what they did. I would just say there's going to be a huge run on receivers and running backs. You got the position guys out the way. I think you're going to see some teams make some take some chances tomorrow. And you're definitely going to see the last of like the edge rushers, like Sam Williams, Drake Jackson. I think they're going to go pretty quick.
Not to be confused with the Sam Williams who was over the age of 84 and never played a game.
54.
No, an 84 overall.
Yeah, as a defensive end. 54 out of Fresno State.
No, but I know he was always at 84 overall, but like never played.
Thanks. So I'll let you take it away. I don't really have much to say. Go ahead, wrap it up on your end before this thing shuts me off.
No, you're good.
Experience of the day.
You're good. Google doesn't care. Google will take all our data.
Even if I was like, I really don't want the machine to cut off, but it's on my phone anyway, so I'm not really tripping.
I literally don't know how we got an extra 20 minutes because, like, literally, it sent me a message. Your free 40 minutes is up. You have 10 more minutes at like 55 minutes. I was like, all right, I guess.
And I was like, I was counting down. I was like, okay,
as long as we're not using my job's Zoom, I'm good. Then it would be a conflict of interest, but we're good. But yeah, man.
We'll find out. We'll deal with it later. I was more just like, all right, let me ask him one last question and then wrap it up. And then all I hear is just violence on your end of the phone. I was like, wait a minute.
But yeah, man, go ahead. Wrap it up.
Great first day. I told a couple of my homies, a couple of friends of mine, to bet on Drake London to go 8 overall, and I don't think they did it. So, here goes. The Cowboys taking Tyler Smith was the smartest thing they could do. He might actually end up being a better version of Lyle Collins. If not, he can also play guard. Trent McDuffie going to the Chiefs. They really killed two birds with one stone. I still don't believe in Kenny Pickett. I don't see what was the point of taking him. I don't see how, if you compare Kenny Pickett to Malik Willis, how he's that much of a better quarterback. I just don't see it. I mean, he was, if you really want to look at his early days at Pitt, he wasn't very good. And then he exploded for 42 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. A lot of that has to do with the receivers he had and the offensive system. They went from Wisconsin and doing what Paul Chris does to spreading it out. But hey, it is what it is. Shout out to Jameson Williams. The Detroit Lions actually impressed me. They went for it. If Jameson Williams doesn't tear his ACL, they get the best receiver in the draft, realistically. And salute to Kayvon Thibodeau. He got a raw deal. I think if he was white, I don't really even think questions about his motive would come up. But it is what it is. The Panthers got the perfect left tackle. The Giants got the perfect tackle who can really play left or right. And if they got to move Andrew Thomas to right tackle, I don't really see how it hurts anybody because tackles pretty much get paid the same as far as guaranteed money goes.
All right, man. Well, I'll just wrap this up with my rant saying this, man. First off, man, shout out to Kalen Jones from the Ringer for pulling up on us. I know he's been following us for a minute, so it was great to have him on the show. Really broke down some of the situations that you've been talking about all year, so shout out to you. But yeah, man, in addition to that, shout out to JB the Ticket. On Twitter, at We Beat the Line, on Instagram, scoreboardvegas@gmail.com. Listen to him. Make some money. But yeah, man, ultimately, I just want to say this. Really proud of our fucking podcast, man. I'm out here in Vegas, live in the fucking VIP showroom, recording live, and shout out to Kenny live from the Pirate Studios, man. Got nothing. We got nothing holding us back, bro. We got a fucking board. We're out here getting invited to venues. We got fucking venues, affiliates in our back pockets. Yeah, man. So shout out to us. We interviewed over 50 draft prospects this past year, and next year it's only going to get bigger. And if you're fucking listening to this podcast or you just Googled it and clicked on it and was like, what the fuck is this? And you're like, oh, shit, I want to be like these motherfuckers and get it from the fucking gutter. Like my boy JB Brick said, get it from the grease, like he said, I'm sorry. Whatever. Wherever the fuck you want to get it from, you want to get it. This is the podcast, the platform. We're going to be getting credentials. We're going to be making shit happen. So if you want to get involved in the wave, get involved with the rave. Check our fucking intern's resume. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. But ultimately, like, yeah, man, shout out to fucking us for making this shit happen. It's my 30th birthday right here tonight at midnight. I got my girlfriend flying out here to beautiful Las Vegas. I'm going to try to fucking pull up on day 2 of Las Vegas and make shit happen. But either way, I'm going to be here. And Kenny's going to be here at USC fucking practices and game days. And we're probably going to be covering the Chargers and the Rams. And maybe even the fucking Raiders. So I don't know what other podcasts, you know, that's 300 deep with no fucking network affiliates. Self-funded, self-made, all money fucking in. Shout out to Nipsey. The marathon fucking continues. And if we end up covering 3 NFL teams in both the LA fucking podcasts, and we just find some side Fresno motherfucker or San Diego motherfucker, and we end up covering the fucking Mountain West, what the fuck are you going to say to us? Nothing. 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 Period. But yeah, man, so again, shout out to fucking Touchdowns and Tangents. Shout out to all the fucking networks that fuck with us. Shout out to all the fucking networks out here with credentials. Fucking, shout out to all the gatekeepers out here who ain't fucking watching tape of film. Shout out to all the fucking networks out here who ain't fucking ask a question about a scheme or technique. Shout out to all you light-skinned motherfuckers getting entrapped. And yeah, shout out to all you Mexican motherfuckers who pretend like you don't speak Spanish. Yeah, I don't know what else. Did I leave anything else out?
Those last two was on your heart.
Did I leave anything else out?
Shout out to people who are out here just clout chasing and taking up space in the culture. You're going to get exposed really by your own doing. I mean, it comes out in the work.
Dude, we literally just had a fucking black, like probably one of the 5 black dudes in sports betting and one of the 3 black dudes at the fucking Ringer on our podcast giving you both ways to make money and also the fucking culture. Holy shit. What the fuck else do we need to do, man? Touchdowns and Tangents, the greatest fucking podcast on this fucking planet. Holy shit.
Maybe strippers and cocaine for my birthday next year.
God damn it, man.
But shout out to the Sapphire Gentlemen's Club. Man, Like this is a great. This is the beginning of a beautiful relationship, partnership. Stop thinking that strip clubs are just places where people do nasty, downright degrading shit. It's a place of business, and also like they put it on. I mean, they took a risk too. NFL draft in Vegas, having people coming on to do media. Like this shit could have went south, but you see the connections being made and you know the talk, the things that are really being brought up and discussed. Like we do this shit because we care and it's our passion. Like if things were different with my job situation, I definitely would have been out there. But in due time, I didn't even talk about the fact that I covered USC spring game this past week, but we'll get to that shit next week. We got 2 more guests in the lineage of guests on this show that'll come on next week. Salute to Jake, salute to Gilbert. So I'm excited. Pete, happy birthday. Enjoy your birthday. Don't get too crazy and don't call me at like 3 a.m. being like, I need you to bail me out of jail, because fam. Don't get busted on.
I'm just saying, if I waive your first payment and send you the $100 on my Cash App account, you're not going to catch a flight?
I'm off Saturday. Bro.
I'm just saying.
Okay, here's the thing.
I'm just saying.
See my schedule tomorrow. I ironically Friday I'm off at 3:30.
All right, y'all. But anyway, check out the TDs_tangents. Will KB make it to Vegas, or will he not? Stay tuned. Touchdowns and tangents. I'm at P certified.
Money to make.
I'm at P certified.
I'm at Ozo Grande.
Kudos channel. Peace.